Hello, mathematical mavens. Today we're going to be doing some Minitab and some confidence intervals. So I thought I'd start out, since this is going to be a video where I use data, and remarking that the second video will be one where I don't use data, but I'll be going over a lot of the same things. This is the video that really goes with your Minitab assignment this week. I would say the next one is really just a bunch of extra stuff you can do and will help you on the homework. So just keep that in your wheelhouse of, yes, you should watch it eventually, but this is the more important one to watch. So I thought I'd show you first a little trick to make your life easier if you're split screening like I am and you've got a lot of data and you want to see some of the other rows. Like there's 12 of them, or sorry, columns. So if you click and activate the session window, and there's a reason you do this, um, and that's your active window, it's the one that'll appear on top if you now tile. So if you go to window and then tile, boom, you get the edges. So now I can scroll over. Yay! So there is 12 columns worth of data because there are 12 variables in this data set. So this data set comes from some credit card holders who were given some different offers, and then they tracked their spending between some different months, and then they looked at the difference in spending to get what they call the spend lift. So people that received a promotion, they're hoping that caused them to spend more, which would indicate a positive spend lift. So this is their change in amount on the card or how much they spent over 6 months. And people that have negatives were paying down their cards. So just keep that in mind when we start talking about this today. So let me go back over here. So the only variables I'm going to be using in today's little example are enrolled in program, market segment, and then spend lift, the one I just talked about. So I really only need those three. Unfortunately, this data is just everybody who applied, so it's not a random sample. And one of the things we need to have a sampling distribution and to have a successful confidence interval is we need to have a random sample. So we're going to sample from this set of data right here, but I'm only going to sample the columns I need. Got it? So I'm going to move to the end of the data set so I know where I've got some space. All right, so to do a sample, you go to Data. Oh no, wait, it's Calc. Oh, it's Data in Minitab Express. I'm sorry, I did that video first, so I made a mistake. Okay, so to do a sample, you go to Calc, Random Data, and then Sample from Columns. So again, Calc, Random Data, Sample from Columns. And again, I'm only going to be selecting the columns I need. So I'm going to do a sample of size 100 because I think that'll be enough. Not really sure. I know that if I have something that's not very normal looking, so if it's skewed, more than 50 is recommended. So I'm just going to do 100 to kind of hedge my bets. Anyway, and then the columns I want enrolled in program. Where is that guy? It's near the end. There it is. I want market segment, which is earlier, and then spend lift. Now with Minitab 18, unlike Express, you have to tell it where to store those. So I need 3 columns. So I'm going to tell it C14 through C16, and that'll give me enough spaces. And you might think these are only 2 apart, but be careful. It's 14, 15, 16. That's 3 columns. If you don't give it enough columns, it'll yell at you and tell you, hey, that's not all right. Or if you give it too many, same thing. So just make sure you count carefully. All right, and there's my 3 columns. And I have to be careful now. I put one of them in there twice. Oh, I put in spend lift positive, not spend lift. Oh, I'm gonna have to do this over again. That's my bad. Okay, poop. Yep, spend lift positive. I need spend lift. Whoops. Where's spend lift? Post promotion. Spend lift after promotion. That's the one I need. Can't believe I screwed up. Oh well, it's probably good for you guys to see something where I mess up every once in a while. That looks more like it. All right. So then my first column is enrolled in program. So I'm going to put 100 enrolled in program. So I put the 100, so I'll remember that this is a sample of size 100. And then I have 100 market segment. And then 100, I'm just going to call it spend lift, even though there's 2 of those. That's the one I need. All right. Now that I've got my samples, I need to do my statistics to them. So I'm going to do some calculating in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a confidence interval for the proportion of customers who enrolled in the program. So I'm going to go to Stat, Basic Statistics, down to 1 proportion. I'm using 1 proportion because if you look at enrolled in program, it's just yes and no question. So like it's not quantitative, it has no units. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So it's asking me, is my stuff in a column? Absolutely it is. I'm going to click into the white box so I get the correct column, and I need C14 or 100 enrolled in program. There we go. Then I'm going to hit the options button. I do want 95%, and I do want to change this to normal approximation mode instead of exact mode, and then I need to hit OK, and then OK again. All right, so it's keeping track of my yeses, and then this would be my my confidence interval right there. So let me copy that and paste it into my document. There we go. And then it asks me for my margin of error. So the margin of error, you can calculate this a couple different ways. What you could do is find the z-score that goes to 95%, which is 1.96, and then find the spread using this sample p. So you do the square root of p times 1 minus p divided by the sample size, which is 100, and that would give you the spread. You multiply those two together, and that would give you the margin of error. Or you can do it like the following. So if you take the sample p and add the margin of error, you get the upper part of the interval, which means this is margin of error plus sample p. Well, I know what sample p is, so if I just subtract that off, I'll get the margin of error. And that's exactly how I'm going to do this. So if you remember, our symbol for margin of error is e, so I'm going to do little e equals upper part of the CI minus my sample p. I'm going to do this again later when I do a mean too. So for this interval, that's going to be 5.97998 minus 0.5, which is lucky. That's going to be easy for me to subtract. I can do that one in my head. 0.97998. That was pretty easy. That's also almost 10%. That's kind of big. I'm a little disappointed with that. I'd like a smaller margin of error, in all honesty. That's not very good. Anyway, let's write an interpretation of our interval. So we are 95% confident that I want to be specific about my proportion. So this is the percentage of customers that are enrolled in the program. Proportion of all customers. Remember, we're talking about the population, not a sample. Who enroll in the program is between 40.20% and we'll round this one the same, 59.80%. I do find it interesting that I got the same exact sample almost on Minitab Express and Minitab 18. If you got a different value than me here, it's because you have a different random sample. Don't be too shocked by that one. I mean, it's quite possible that if you're following along with me, you get something different. Random is as random does. All right, so that's it. Yeah, so, interesting. To 40 to almost 60% of people are enrolled in this program out of everyone, all customers, the entire population. Okay. Next up, we're going to do something very similar. So I want to create a 95% confidence interval for the proportion of customers who are classified as being in the average spender marketing segment. So if you try to do this, it's going to cause a problem. And let me show you. So I'm going to hit edit last dialog because I am still doing a one proportion because clearly this is words and has no unit, so it can't be quantitative, so it means it can't be a T or a Z. So I'm going to change this, and then I'm going to throw something in here, and it's going to yell at me. Oh yeah, I can totally do market segment. That's okay, right? Oh yeah, looking good. 9 to 5. Bing. One contain error, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is an error. That means you made a mistake, not a you're a little bit off error. Anyway, it contains one or more than two distinct values. So when we make a sample p, little p's, we have to have a defined success and a defined failure. Now that means you only have two options, success and failure. This has like 5 things in it, so it can't tell what my successes and failures are. I need to change it so that it looks like just 2 things. So what we're going to do is what's called a recode, and I'm going to mark the thing I'm interested in as yes and everything else is no, and then it looks like this guy. Only 2 options. You feeling it? Okay. For this one, you do go to data. So I'm going to go to data, recode, and then to text. So data, recode, wow, I said that weird, to text. I'm going to recode the market segment variable. The method I'm going to use is individual values. Oh, sorry, single value. No, individual values. That's the one I want. Sorry, it took it a minute to realize how many things I had. So over here, these grade ones, that's the original, and then we're going to recode to something new. So I'm not going to lie, I picked average spender because it was the top one. So we're going to make this one a yes, and the rest of them a no. Make sure you type your no's the same for all of them. So notice I'm using a capital N and a lowercase o. If I did a lowercase o in here, or a lowercase n in here for just one of them, it would think that that no is different from the other no's. So they need to all look identical. All right, we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And it created this recode. And then always check this summary box in the session window to make sure that your no's all look the same. If one of them's a little off kilter, that means you have a space in there and you're going to have to redo this. Okay? So if you see something a little off with one of your no's, they don't all look the same, Minitab will think they're different. Make sure they all look the same. All right, now I am ready to do my confidence interval, and I have to do it on the recoded column, so it's this one. I've noticed that some of you feel like you need to click in here to get it to work. You don't got to click on anything. It's fun. Maybe. I don't know. So we're going to go to Stat, Basic Statistics, down to the one proportion test. I now need to put my recoded variable in there because that one I can do the test to. Recoded, market segment. Check my options, 95%. I probably should have picked a different percentage. You can type whatever you want in here for percent-wise for your confidence level. Normal approximation. Let's hit OK. We are good to go. There is my confidence interval. Let's go ahead and copy and paste it into our document. And that's it for that question because that's all it asked us to do. Done! So just so you keep in mind, if you're interested in just one category on something that has more than two categories, you will have to recode it every time. Fun facts. Recoding isn't too bad though. All right, let's move on to doing a confidence interval for something quantitative. So spend lift, as we've already talked about, is the difference in spending over a 3 months period to see if they've changed their behavior in spending. So we're going to need to do a confidence interval for this. We're going to do a 95%er. Since I have raw data and it's a sample, it's not going to be something I can do a Z to, because to do a Z, I have to already know what the population's spread is, aka sigma. I do not have that, so I'm going to have to do T. So we're going to go to Stat, Basic Statistics, down to a one sample T. And I've got my sample in one column, so I'm going to click into the white box below it. Throw in 100 spend lift. That's my sample of size 100. I'm going to check my options to make sure it's set at 95%. It is. It's a not equal to, so we're good to go. We can go ahead and hit our OKs. I'm hoping you notice that when you have an extra box that you've opened to set up some of your stuff, you have to do the most recently opened box's OK first before you do the second one. And here is my confidence interval. And as you can see, it's rounded like the devil. This is money, so I should have at least 2 decimal places. Well, those aren't even interesting decimal places. Oh well. Let's do that to everything. I don't need these guys, so I'm good. All right. So here's my confidence interval. So I'm going to copy that in right here, even though there's really no question for that part. All right, and then they ask us for our margin of error. We're going to use the same trick we did earlier. I'm going to take the upper part of the CI, which is the negative $76.38, and subtract the mean. This one I'm not going to be able to do in my head. So my E is going to be, does that autocorrect every time? The upper CI minus I. Oh, okay. Minus my sample mean. So for me, that's going to be negative $76.38. Again, you might get something slightly different if you have a different sample, minus the negative, so that looks real pretty. 387, you could just put plus, it's fine. 0.29, I'm going to calculate what that is really quick using my handy dandy handheld calculator. Although I think I'm going to totally mess with you and just do it this way. 29 minus 76.38. Oops, that would have came out terribly. As it appears, my margin of error is $310.90. That's huge. Oh, that's why this is so wonky looking. It's a huge margin of error. Okay, so these are really spread out and kind of crazy looking. I bet you if I did a graph of this, it would look weird. Anyway, let's write an interpretation of our interval. We are 95% confident that the true mean spend lift for all card holders is between negative $387.29. Should have put a dollar sign symbol. Let me do that real quick. I like to put it before the negative, and I think that's just a personal preference. I'm not sure if that's proper or not. I should probably look that up and know it. 7638. Yes, that is the way to do it. I know in accounting they put parentheses around it, which I think is super weird. Just use the minus sign, dude. I don't know. If I were somebody who was working at this company, I would say, oh, that's always negative. That's bad. We're losing money on this deal. We shouldn't do this promotional program because on average, we're not gaining any money. What the heck? That's not good. Eh, there you go. So there's how you can use some of this to make some decisions. I hope this was informative and helped you. And that's all I've got today. So keep in mind, you will have to do some coding in your assignment this week and some sampling. Do not forget to sample. Do not forget you should be using your sample to do your tests. Thank you.